Here are 10 characteristics of coronavirus misinformation based on the monitoring First Draft is currently doing. So if you're a reporter, these are some of the things that you need to be on the lookout for. Some of these are tactics being used by malicious actors. Others are simply characteristics of the misinformation we're seeing, and by describing them, we hope it explains why certain rumours are travelling so quickly. Number 1. Bad actors want misinformation to move across platforms, from closed groups into social media, and then into the professional media, because if a rumour doesn't have any oxygen, it doesn't go anywhere. Bad actors want oxygen to drive rumours in front of as many eyes as possible. For example, some rumours start in closed messaging spaces like WhatsApp or private Facebook groups. They might even start in anonymous spaces like 4chan or Discord, and the whole tactic is to get different bloggers or different Facebook or Twitter accounts to post the rumour, hoping that by doing so, it will then get picked up by other influential accounts, for example, a police department's Facebook page or mentioned during a politician's press conference. This would mean it might then get picked up by local or national media. For example, let's take the messages talking about door-to-door testing. We were seeing people posting about it on the app next door. And then we saw city officials and police departments saying, please don't open the door, this is a scam, the CDC are not doing door-to-door testing. But actually, when NBC talked to different police departments, they admitted that nobody had actually reported any cases, but they were responding to social media chatter. But by talking about door-to-door scams, it can ratchet up the panic. So we just need to be very aware of this as a potential tactic. Number 2. As we just described, closed messaging apps are increasingly popular for sharing rumours and misinformation, as they can't be tracked and people in smaller trusted networks are more likely to share. So the reason places like WhatsApp or small family Facebook groups are so popular is because someone there might say, well, I don't know if this is true or not, but I love you, so I'm going to pass it along. It's like a form of gossip. And the problem with that is that it's impossible for us to track how many people are sharing these same pieces of information in these online spaces. And yes, people can send into tip lines, but it's impossible for us to know how widespread that same rumour is. Many of these closed spaces use end-to-end encryption, which means even the platforms can't see what's being shared. During the coronavirus crisis, we've seen an uptick of these types of rumours in these spaces, and certainly countries like Brazil or India or even Spain have seen misinformation on WhatsApp for a long time. But in places like, for example, the UK or the US, this feels relatively new. Number 3. Bad actors understand visuals and memes are compelling vehicles for misinformation. So people who like to spend time with quality information, whether that's journalists, researchers or fact-checkers, well, we tend to love text. But for those trying to push false or misleading information, they know that visuals can be more effective. The great thing about memes is they just appear on your phone. You don't have to click to a website address, and they're very easy to share because of that. Visuals and memes are often highly engaging, and they are often very emotional. And so, as you can see, really compelling vehicles for misinformation, and if we ignore them, we're doing so at our peril. Number 4. Effective content often has a kernel of truth, so older, genuine content is now resurfacing and being labelled as new content related to coronavirus. This image on the left, which was at the end of March, is a picture that says nice weather has brought people out at a march to end COVID-19 in Cleveland. The image was designed to suggest that people were ignoring social distancing measures, but surprise, surprise, this was actually from a Cavaliers basketball championship parade from June 2016. Why create something new when you can just take old content and relabel it? This is some of the most effective material we see, and we're currently seeing a lot of it. Number 5. Scammers are using coronavirus to sell false testing kits, cures and treatments. And so while places like Amazon, Etsy, Facebook Marketplace are trying to ensure that these kind of scams aren't appearing, they are still there, and selling faulty goods is a tried and tested method online. So it's something that everybody should be aware of, and as reporters, also be aware that your audiences might not know how they're being scammed on these platforms right now. Number 6. Lots of rumours are circulating in local groups and online spaces. So again, you might want to tap into local next door communities. You can only monitor the community that's connected to your zip code or postcode, but it's worth having a poke around in them. You might also want to look for local Facebook groups, or if you're on Telegram, see if you can find any local geo-fenced groups. Again, you can only access them depending on the location of your phone. Or you might want to look at local Snapchat communities. Certainly, right now, people are turning towards local online groups. Firstly, because actually the ordinances are different in almost every location. So people want hyperlocal information about whether or not they can visit a local restaurant. Are they allowed to walk their dog? But also, people right now are turning to sources that they can trust, and there is a sense that local information is more trustworthy. Number 7, misinformation and hate speech are increasingly blurring together. People are taking advantage of existing racial divisions and xenophobia. And unfortunately, we're seeing an uptick in hate crimes, particularly those aimed at people of Asian descent. So it's something that we want to highlight. Racist content is absolutely a key characteristic of misinformation around coronavirus right now. Number 8, keyword squatting is a term that Joan Donovan and Brian Friedberg from Harvard invented. It's the strategic domination of keywords to misrepresent groups, individuals, or information. It's not surprising that people are buying up domain names right now about coronavirus. It's something that we're tracking. The other way that this is playing out is that certain hashtags, for example, hashtag CCP virus, as in Communist China Party virus, are being used to push racist or misleading content. Keyword squatting is a deliberate technique to try and take over a keyword or hashtag to ensure the information around it is poor. Number 9, imposter content is a very effective technique. People trust logos of organizations they know. So on the left-hand side, you can see an example from LA where people had these flyers pushed through their doors. They were using the CDC and WHO logos at the top, even though the text was full of misleading information. The other example is from the UK. Kent Online is a local newspaper there. Here is a false piece of information where somebody just photoshopped on the Kent Online logo to the top of the picture. And finally, remember, attribution is really hard, and it's often impossible to know who is behind a rumour or conspiracy in real time. So last week, we saw a lot of messages with people sharing pictures of tanks and military gear being driven down major roads. Right now, we have no idea who's behind this. Is this old material that we just can't track down that was being reshared? Or is it actually a coordinated attempt by bad actors, either domestic or foreign? We just don't know. And so one thing I would say is that probably in 6 months' time, we will have a lot more information about who's behind some of these rumours. But it's almost impossible to do that in real time, particularly without access to the data that the platforms have or information only available to the intelligence communities. So I just wanted to end there by saying, be very aware of these challenges around attribution, even though, of course, it's everything we want to know right now. It's really difficult to do.